We've now reached the screen where you're going to spend the most amount of time during the setup portion. That's on the Sites tab. So what I'm going to do is open up one of these sites for you that already exists. This will be the same information, but if you want to add a new site, you can always click here, Create a New Site. So I'm going to go into a site. So first, there are 3 items that you have to include when you create a site in Yeti. Number 1 is going to be the name. So I have a name of the site. And down below, by the way, name for operators, that's going to be what appears on the mobile app. You have the option here if you want to provide a different name from the actual name, you certainly can, but 9 times out of 10, it's probably going to be the same as the name. So the second item that you need to have is the site address, and we will want to make sure we choose the Google verified version of that address. And the last thing you'll need are your services. So over here on the right-hand side, I currently can choose from these 3 services in black. Down below in orange, though, are the rest of my services that I have, an option to add here. So I'll go ahead and click anywhere in this area to be able to add one of these services. And it's going to pull up a list. I have my client rates and my subcontractor rates. So let's go ahead and add on a few services here. Let's suppose we want to add a plow service, 0 to 2 inch plow. I can go to charge type. We'll do per visit. We'll do a rate of $250. And then if I'm going to subcontract this, I can add in a subcontractor charge type and a rate for the sub. If I want to add in an inspection form, I can choose really any of these because we're not going to be charging, likely, an amount. So if I want to do that, I certainly can. Rate of $0. And then maybe I also want to charge for, let's go ahead and do sanding. Maybe that'll be done hourly. And you'll notice when I select hourly, and I can choose per visit here if I want to sub, I can do whatever I need to for the sub. But when I choose hourly, I'm unable to click here to enter in a rate. That's because when a user chooses a service that's set as hourly, the amount will default back to the piece of equipment that they're using and the rate we have set for that equipment. So once I've done this, added these 3 services, you can see now I can select from these 3 services on this site. So those are the 3 items you absolutely have to have. Now let's go over the items that are nice to have and that may be useful for you. Scrolling back up to the top here, we can add in internal notes, which are notes that the crew will not see at all. We can add in crew notes, which they will see. So if you have gate codes, priority lanes, site contact information that you want to include here, you can. We can put the site into mobile app basic view. I would not recommend doing this. What this is going to do is keep the operator in the field from taking before and after photos and also noting site conditions. So, if you have a bunch of residential properties all in a row, this may be a good thing to use. If not, we want to exclude that so that we can gather all the site detail. Down below, we can choose the client. And in this case, we'll choose Walmart. If I have a client reference number I want to include here, I can, meaning if they call this site number 1234, I can include that here. I can choose a map icon for the site as it will appear in my global map later on. And then after the address, we can include contacts. So if I want to, I can include a name and an email address and then choose send an email when a site is started. We can send an email when a site's completed. We can send all the photos when a site is completed. And we can also send out a service history report after the site's completed. These will send automatically. If we are going to send service history reports and we want them to be received by this client at the same time all the time, we can do that too by using the batch report option here and then choosing, well, let's say in this instance, 5:30. So if that's what I choose, every day at 5:30, this email address is going to receive the service history reports on this site from the last 24 hours. And then finally, we can choose 4 bulk dispatch offers. If you use our bulk dispatch feature, this is how you include a site on the bulk dispatch. And you can add as many contacts here as you'd like. You can continue to go down and hit add contact below. So once your contacts are added, the next thing we can do is attach any files that we may need specifically for this site. We can also include site tags. And like I mentioned earlier, when we were in users, tags are best thought of as a customizable filter. So for a site, I would suggest, priority levels, if it's 0 tolerance, if it's high priority, low priority, if there is such a thing. And you can also include zones. You know, if you operate north zone, south zone, zone 1, zone 2, you can include that here. And then we can also include the geofence, which will take us to that site. I've already drawn one here, but if I'd like to, I can go ahead and draw a geofence. That's just clicking around the site itself. Hit OK. And then I can create a site map. If you already have a site map, you can hit upload image, and that'll just upload from your computer. If you need to create one, you can hit image from map. It'll take you to the site. And if I need to now, I can hit take and edit down below. When I do that, it's going to pop up an image of that site for me that I can edit within Yeti. So over here on the left-hand side, we have editing tools. I can provide a polygon. If I want to shade in a certain area, we can adjust the opacity here. And I can do so just by clicking around. Shade in that parking lot. If I want to do an overlay, for whatever reason, I can do that. Same with the circle. And we can go ahead and adjust the opacity before we do that. And now I have a red circle. I can provide directional plow lines if I need to. Let's say on this side I want everything plowed toward the bottom. If I need to draw lines, I can. If I need vertical lines, I can use those as well. If I want to do a text overlay, I can do so. And I can also provide icons. So I want to have a snow pile here, here, and here. Maybe I have some handicap parking up front. And maybe finally I have a storm drain that I want to make sure we don't roll over. And if I'm storing equipment on site, I can also include that location so that the operator knows where to go to pick up the skid loader in this instance. And then finally, if my insurance company requires that I provide a grid overlay, I can do that too. Now that's kind of messy, but the good news is you can include as many of these as you need. So once I save this, I'm going to see this here, I can continue to add in site maps if needed. So once my site maps are created, next I can add measurements. And I already have a turf measurement here, but if I want to now, I can add in a parking lot measurement. If I already know the size, I can just type it in. Otherwise, I'm going to choose my unit of measure, hit draw area, and now I can draw around in that area. And if, let's say this is spaced apart, here is the parking lot I used earlier for the geofence. I can obviously zoom in and out too if I need to do that. But it will basically add up both of these polygons together for a total of 1.77 acres. Once all that information is added, you are now clear to hit the save button. And at that point, after you've added in all of your sites, we're ready for the last setup portion here, which is going to be routes. Once your routes are created, you are able to get started servicing using the Yeti mobile app.